The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. Now, if you clicked on this video thinking that I hate the Parkers and that I'm going to be dragging it to hell and back, you got the absolute wrong idea. I love the Parkers. The Parkers is real television, real entertainment right there. If you ask me what are my top 11 shows of all time, the Parkers is going to be in that list, okay? I have watched it so many times. There are certain episodes that I know like the back of my hand, okay? I love this show. Let's go ahead and get that clear. But just because I love it don't mean everything about it is good. Just because I love it don't mean everything about it is perfect. Remember, you are allowed to be critical of the media that you consume and enjoy. All right, got it? Let's continue. Hey y'all, it's Harriana and I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriana and welcome back to The Pirate Ship, also known as Harriet's Pirate Ship. I am the captain. You are not my first date. I don't got no first date because you want to know why? Bring your ear closer to the speaker so you can hear me clearly. Open your ears. Nobody's worthy of being the first mate, but hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriana and I like to make content based on nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces. Today's video, we are going to be talking about the Parkers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I noticed that a lot of y'all really tend to like my videos that I make about black sitcoms, specifically black sitcoms that were popular in the 2000s, and y'all really did like my wife and kids video, so that gave me the idea of like, okay, what other shows would you guys like to talk about from that decade? Because I remember before this I made a video talking about how the Parkers did have a bit of an issue with homophobia, like a lot of 2000s black sitcoms did just as well, but that just gave me the idea. I love the Parkers so much. Why don't I just sit here and make a long ass video talking about everything with it? The good, the bad, and the ugly. So here we are. But before we go ahead and get started, I just want to go ahead and do a little bit of self-promo. If you like this do-rag I'm wearing, it is from my shop. It is inspired by Gulia from Monster High. But yeah, I am currently having my Black Friday sale. This is currently Small Business Saturday, the day that this video was going up. But don't worry, the sale is going to be going on for 2 days after this video goes up. So y'all still got time to shop. Y'all still got time to get your things. But yeah, I sell bonnets and do-rags and lip glosses, jewelry that doesn't tarnish. Both of these necklaces that I'm wearing have come from my shop. My signature hook necklace came from my shop just as well. But I sell a lot of products inspired by Y2K and anime and things that I just enjoy. I have some of my products sitting in here with me right now. I have added a new ladybug bonnet. This is the shady bug bonnet. This is the ladybug bonnet. So ladybug and shady bug. I also have a cat noir bonnet. Here's the cat noir bonnet. No, this is the SpongeBob bonnet. What are you talking about? This is the cat noir bonnet. And then if you're familiar with Jujutsu Kaisen, this is the ghetto bonnet. And I also have a Nanami bonnet right just as well. The Nanami bonnet is actually one of my best sellers and it is reversible. You have the pattern that is on his weapon on the inside. You have his tie on the outside. And then the last little thing I want to show promo, I do have other Monster High stuff. This is actually a Draculaura bonnet that I have just as well. I also have this do-rag, this Gulia do-rag, but also in a bonnet. So yeah, if you're interested, everything is 38% off until December 2nd. Okay, yeah, that's done. And by the way, if you spend $75 or more, you get free shipping. So I'll shut the fuck up now. Let's actually get into why you clicked on this video. Now, for those of you guys who are not familiar, I do my makeup as I make my videos. So yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. What exactly is the Parkers? The Parkers is a television series that ran in the late 90s to the early 2000s that came on UPN. And if you're black, you most likely know what UPN is. UPN is what the CW is now, okay? It was a place where like almost all the black sitcoms went through. Now, I wouldn't say almost all of them, but a lot of them came on this network. It is a series that focuses on a mother and daughter duo going to community college. They start at the same time. They don't end at the same time because it turns out Kim's not graduating, but Nikki does. We're gonna get into this shit later. But for those of you guys who don't know, because a lot of people did not know this, The Parkers is actually a spinoff of another series called Moesha. There actually is a backdoor pilot of The Parkers in Moesha, which basically was kind of like Countess Vaughn's exit from the show. Countess Vaughn plays Kim on the series, by the way. We will talk about that later. There are a lot of people from Moesha that make appearances in The Parkers, by the way, because like it's literally the same universe. Not really surprising. Ooh. Like we were saying, y'all. Oh, it got on my mirror. But the series features a lot of characters making appearances here and there from Moesha. Moesha, played by Brandy Norwood herself, also made an appearance just as well for an episode where it was Kim's birthday. But The Parkers basically started airing during the college seasons of the series Moesha. As Moesha focuses on Moesha's college years, The Parkers focuses on Kim's college years. Kim and Moesha went to high school together, but they decided to go to different colleges. And it makes sense for like Moesha and Kim to go to different colleges. And I'm not saying that because like Kim isn't necessarily like the brightest flower in the bunch, but Kim's family doesn't have as much money as Moesha's family does. So this setup does make a bit of sense. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Kim's mother, Nikki, did not go to college. So this is her first time going to school. And I really love that. This is like some representation at the time that we weren't really seeing on television, by the way. It was a series about a mother going back to school. And that's actually something that is very common in society, especially like here in American society, where women who have had kids young, they decide to go back to school later on, like when their kids are like old enough to like be able to take care of themselves and whatnot. Now, another reason why I think The Parkers was a very revolutionary show is because look at our two main leads. During the time when The Parkers was coming out, usually when there were shows about fat people, they were made to be like the butt of the joke, or they just weren't seen as important, and they weren't really the main characters. They were the side characters. They were low-key portrayed to be somebody's duff at times. And Moesha low-key did that with Kim's character, but this show kind of like makes up for it to a certain extent. Our two main leads, played by Monique, who is a prominent factor when it comes to like black media. A lot of people know who Monique is because of The Parkers. She ended up having her own talk show. In the 2000s, Monique was a big deal. I even say that like in a little bit of the 90s too. She was a big deal just as well. We'll kind of be like, nah, we gotta give Monique her credit for what it's due. Say what you want about her, but she is a talented ass woman. She's naturally funny. And then Kim, who is played by Countess Vaughn. Both of them aren't what you would call skinny. And during this time on television, we weren't really seeing fat people be the main characters of series. We weren't really seeing people in bigger bodies be the main characters of series at the time, especially because the 2000s is a very like fat phobic period. Okay, a lot of time periods are fat phobic, but the fat phobia was on 10, especially when you go back and look at what the tabloids were saying about celebrities' bodies every 5 to 7 business days. But one thing I really like about The Parkers is that while Kim and Nikki are not skinny, they are still portrayed to be desirable in the series, and that's one thing I really do love. And they also really had cute clothes, because that's one thing a lot of people get irritated with when they're watching like entertainment and they have characters in bigger bodies or fat characters, and they would give them like the ugliest wardrobe possible. I'm gonna use an example from a television series that a lot of people know is one of the whitest shows ever, called Pretty Little Liars. Sasha Peterson is one of the actors on the show, and she played like the mean girl type character. She used to have really cute clothes, but then something was going on with Sasha Peterson's health. She ended up gaining a lot of weight, and then next thing you know, they started putting Allison in the ugly ass, most tackiest ass outfits when she gained weight. I was like, y'all do know y'all still could have gave her cute clothes while she was bigger, right? But okay. But no, like the outfits in the Parkers were eating. That is one of the major things that I look forward to when I watch this show, to see what everyone is going to wear. And I'm not even sitting here and talking about the way Nikki and Kim were dressing. I'm talking about all the characters. Well, the female characters more so. They were eating down. Very much eating down. There's only one male character I will sit here and say that has good outfits, and that has to be Freddie Fabulous. But Freddie Fabulous, I have a lot of opinions on that character. I feel like that is going to have to be discussed at another time, because I didn't jot that down in my notes to talk about him. I mainly want to talk more so about Kim and Nikki's storylines here, because while I do appreciate for what the Parkers did for Black television and just television period for women at the time, there are still issues with this show. There are a lot of things about it that did not age well. So the Parkers, like Moesha, takes place in Los Angeles, but opposed to the college that Moesha attends, it takes place at Santa Monica Community College. We will be taking the Huda Beauty nude palette. I don't exactly know what kind of look I'm gonna do today. I'm probably gonna do like that glossy Y2K look that I had already done here on this channel, but I'm probably going to use different colors. I'm actually gonna use like some brighter colors. Should we do bright green? Should we do bright? We're gonna do like bright green. Okay. I mean, it works because I got cherries on my head at the moment. Now we have to start out talking about the characters. Who is everyone before we can go into details about what the fuck they had going on. The first character we are going to be speaking about is Nikki Parker. Hold on, I just remember a major arc I want to talk about here that like contributes to a point that I make later on. Let me go ahead and jot that down. But also I have a crusty on my face. Ugh, like a flake of like foundation. Gross. So the main character of the Parkers is, well, it's two main characters. The main one is Nikki Parker. She is the mother of Kim Parker, and she is basically trying to get her life together. And Nikki is a character, okay? Like, she literally is like a scene stealer. Monique is super duper talented. She works with whatever the show chooses to give her. But the reason she is going back to college is because, for those of you guys who don't know, Nikki is a teen parent. She ended up having Kim, I think, probably like her senior year of high school. And because she ended up having her so young, it affected a lot of the things that she wanted to do with her life because she was busy taking care of her daughter. That's pretty much all I want to say about Nikki for now, because we will get into details later, more so about like the storylines that she gets herself into. And while I love Nikki, she is a problematic fave. She has done plenty of things in this series that I don't like, nor do I agree with. She has done things that made her look very much insecure. She has done stupid ass shit for that man that she is too good for. That man being Professor Ogilvy. We'll get to him in a second. But for the most part, Nikki is a good main character. She's played by a very talented actor. But really, a lot of this show is kind of like Nikki's midlife crisis, because we do see moments where she just kind of feels like giving up and she feels like she's not doing everything right and whatever the fuck. But the thing is, when she has those moments, she gets back the fuck up and try. Like Aaliyah said, dust yourself off and try again. Okay, I said we wanted to do like bright green. We are going to do bright green. Okay, y'all know the Lizzie McGuire palette that we often use on this channel. We're going to use that next. The next character we're going to talk about would have to be Kim Parker. Kim Parker is Nikki's daughter. And listen, the Kim Parker that we see in the Parkers is low-key not the same Kim Parker that we see. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that The Parkers is a series that focuses on Kim's first few years of adulthood, because when Kim was in Moesha, she was a kid. She literally was a high schooler. So a lot of the decisions that Kim would make in Moesha, I could give them a little bit more of a pass opposed to the things that she started doing in the Parkers, where I'm just like, Kim, we have gotten too old for this. We have gotten too old for this. And numerous people, when they had their critique of the Parkers, one of the major things that they bring up is that they don't like how the more the show goes on, the more stupid Kim becomes. Now, Kim wasn't like a flat out like idiot in Moesha. Like, she wasn't. Like, she was a bit naive, she was a bit impressionable, but for the most part, she wasn't like flat out stupid. But the Parkers just made her IQ like 10. It was so bad. It was actually terrible, and it was hard to watch sometimes, because you can go back and watch the first like season of the Parkers, and then you'll go and watch the season of the Parkers, the last season, and you'll see that there is a drastic difference with Kim's behaviors. It's like she went from being naive to like a full-on airhead, and it was annoying to deal with. Mainly because it's like the older Kim got, the more childish she became. Like, it was really, really frustrating. Is it bright enough? I don't know, it ain't green enough. Let's take another one. We're gonna take the Morena Fearless Heart palette. I used this one last time on my channel, last time I did a makeup video. Okay, it's giving green now. The next character in the Parkers I want to talk about is Stevie. Stevie is Kim's best friend in the series. Now, if you watch Moesha, you would know that Kim's best friend was Moesha, but that friendship was ghetto as hell. Them bitches did not like each other. They did not like each other at all. So I'd say that Stevie was like more of a genuine friend to Kim opposed to Moesha. Moesha could have been much better to Kim. Honestly, the entire series of Moesha in general could have been better to Kim. But one major thing I want to bring up about Stevie, because I noticed a lot of people were talking about how if you go back and watch a black show, you'll notice that they'll have that one token white character in there. Oh, we know the exact reason why they put a token white character in a lot of these shows. Like, even thinking about Chelsea from That's So Raven. Raven was the main character. She was a black girl. Her best friend was a white girl. And we saw that they were still friends years later when Raven's Home was made. But Stevie is the token white person of the Parkers. Black sitcoms are known for doing this, but the main reason they do this is because, for those of you guys who are not familiar, when it comes to black media, when it comes to black music, black movies, black shows, black books, the main consumers of those things are black people or mixed people that are mixed with black. And it's kind of hard to sell a lot of black products to white consumers because a lot of them just have no interest in watching anything if a white person is not in it. So it does make sense why Stevie was one of the main characters in this show and why they decided to make Kim her best friend, because if you watch Moesha, I don't really think there was a white person that was a main character in that show. Like, we had like mixed people, they had like mixed Latina people all the time on that damn show, but like a white main character on Moesha, I remember one of Moesha's boyfriends was white, and there was an entire episode about people being nasty about their interracial relationship. But yeah, this is like we see more of like a prominent white person in this universe. But Stevie, for the most part, she's cool, she's there like for Kim all the time, but she has like a lot of mommy issues. She does not get along with her mama at all. There are arcs in this show where her and her mama are like about to tussle with one another, and Nikki was trying to get her shit together with Stevie's mom, but no. It's also important to note that Stevie comes from like a wealthy family, and because of that, she just kind of wants to be able to be more independent and be on her own. But I really, really like Stevie's character. When people talk about like a fictional character that is like an ally to the black community, they often bring up Stevie. Like, Stevie was a real bitch, okay? Y'all, I just realized I forgot to do my eyebrows before we started doing that, so let's continue. Now, the next character I want to talk about is T. And if you watch my video about, this is actually a really, really good video on this channel. Not this channel, this platform. I forgot their name, but they made a video talking about like the marvelous misadventures of T and how T be caught up in all the fucked up situations in this show. I will have the link to that down below. It's a very, very interesting video. I highly recommend giving it a watch. But in my video talking about the Parkers and homophobia, I had mentioned that anytime there would be like some homophobic or transphobic shit going on in the show, T's character would like be involved. But T is Kim and Stevie's friend, and they ended up forming a music group called Freestyle Unity that low-key didn't go anywhere, but I deeply appreciate it. We need to go back to television shows being about fucking bands. Like, we need to go back to shows being about bands and music groups and all of that. We are losing recipes. We are losing the receipts. We kind of got that shit with Julie and the Phantoms, but then they fucking canceled that. I was mad because that was real cinema right there. Yeah, but the three of them form a group called Freestyle Unity. I also want to bring up that Kim and Stevie both dated him. I would say that he really more so dated Stevie though, because him and Kim, I don't know where that shit was going, but Kim and made it clear that in the start of the show that she had a crush on T. If you watch Moesha, you will know that Kim was very much boy crazy, and that behavior doesn't really change much in this show. If anything, it gets slightly worse because a lot of her relationships are a lot more serious here. But Kim and like T had something going on. It didn't really last long, and then later on, as the show went on, him and Stevie dated, and then they broke up not long after that. The way that show does relationships is like so funny, but like they be so bad, and I be sad. But T, I don't really have nothing much to say about him. He's just like the guy of the group. Like, you know how television shows, like if the main character is like a guy and they'll have one female friend and then like one male friend. The Parkers, Kim had one female friend and then she had one male friend. I appreciate that because sometimes watching Moesha, it felt like the friend group was like a little bit too big at times. And there was a lot of fake bullshit going on too just as well. Also, Moesha was annoying because of Hakeem. Hakeem was Kim's past crush from Moesha. He does make a few appearances here in the Parkers, but like I said, nothing really comes about Kim and Hakeem. She basically gets over him and Moesha and moves on to other guys gladly. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Moesha, the toe, put Moesha and Hakeem together. But then also Moesha, they had some art going on where Nisi, who was a friend of Moesha and Kim's, kissed him. And I hated it. I will say part of the reason why I prefer the Parkers over Moesha has to do with the fact that the Parkers is a lot more mature than Moesha at times. And it makes sense. Like when I go back and rewatch Moesha, I don't even rewatch the high school seasons. I go straight to the college seasons. Straight, same with Sister. I go straight to the college seasons. I have a few more characters that I want to get through before we actually start to get into certain storylines of this show. The next character I want to talk about is the character a lot of people really like recognize the most when this show. Like I remember people would talk about celebrities only black people know, and people would like dead ass calling this man by his name from this series, and that is Professor Ogilvy. His name is Stanley, by the way, but Professor Ogilvy is one of the professors at Santa Monica Community College, and Nikki is madly in love with this man. Like it was like love at first sight for him. And at first it was like, all right, like I'd say it was like kind of cute. It was like, okay, this older woman has a crush on a man her age. Like, thank God. And it's like the more the show goes on, they have like this running gag of Nikki bothering the professor. He made it very clear that he doesn't have like interest in her, but also he's kind of a loser. He's honestly not that good of a person. I'd say he's not that good of a man. He's annoying as hell. Because that brings me into my next character that I want to bring up, is a character named Veronica. Veronica is Professor Ogilvy's on and off girlfriend, and because of that, Nikki hates her. That shit is why I think Nikki should have gotten over him, but you know, because this was like one of the major storylines of the Parkers, of Nikki just being all over the professor, they continued to keep it going. And then there were parts of the show where they got rid of it. But y'all know that shit that they do? Y'all know that storyline that shows like to do where a character is like, has a crush on another character, but then they get over that person and they finally leave them alone, and then the person gets mad that they're not bothering them? That's what the Parkers had started doing with Nikki and the professor, because he was basically begging for Nikki to leave him alone, and then later on Nikki does leave him alone and he's just like upset about it because he misses the attention. We're going to talk about them later, because guess what? Spoiler alert, this is literally the last arc that I'm going to talk about in this video. Nikki and the professor got married, and then they got married. And I don't like the way it was done. I don't like the way it was handled. Like, when I talk about series finales that I fucking hate, I hate the series finale of The Parkers. But yeah, that was Professor Ogilvy. Next character that I want to bring up, this is the last character we're going to be talking about too, just as well, would have to be Andell. Andell is another character that actually came from Moesha. She was kind of a mentor figure to Moesha and her friends because they always were at her shop that she went to, like the place that she owned and all that shit. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I never really fully understood what Andell did in Moesha, but she was like a good mentor figure for them in the show. But she basically is written to be Nikki's best friend in this series. And in the beginning, they actually had another person be Nikki's best friend. I don't even remember that bitch name because I just did not care about her character. I thought she was really dry. I thought she was really boring. I didn't think she was funny. Like, what's that shit that Cleo Trapper had said about Ice Spice? She's boring. She don't even want to play Uno. Yeah, that other girl, it just wasn't clicking, but I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Monique just had a lot more chemistry with Andell's character. Rest in peace to her. For those of you guys who don't know, her actor did pass away. Now let's actually start to get into like some of the storylines in The Parkers. Ones that I think that a lot of people really like memorize, like the ones that we really are most familiar with. I'll go ahead and talk about the apartment change. So in the first season, like the first 2 seasons, Nikki and Kim lived in this apartment and I hated it. I did not like the first apartment of The Parkers. Comment down below which apartment you like better in The Parkers, because I like the second one better than the first one. The second one is the one a lot more people are most familiar with because a lot more people are more familiar with the episodes that came like later on, like in the 2000s with this show. But I just did not like the first apartment. It looked cramped. It was just not cute. But the reason that they no longer live in that apartment in the first place is because Nikki basically could not live there no more. There was an arc where she moved in with Professor Ogilvy and then got kicked out, and then she came to live with Kim in her apartment. So the second apartment that we see is basically where Kim decides to move on her own and get away from her mom because she needed space. And while Kim and Nikki are like kind of like BFFs, you know, those type of parents that like literally get along with their like kids so well to the point where they're like besties with them. That's how things are with Kim and Nikki. But because of that, because of how close they are, Kim decides that she does want some space from her mother and she decides to live on her own, which I don't understand because Kim didn't have a job. Like, who the fuck was paying for that apartment? Was it her dad paying for her apartment? Because her dad bought a lot of her clothes too. He basically paid for a lot of shit for her. But I was like, was her dad paying for Nikki's stuff? Because Nikki's jobs were like on and off. She was basically selling like this bootleg version of Avon, which is a scam for those of you guys who don't know. She then started like a catering service, and I think the catering service went pretty well from her. But like, Kim and Nikki was not making money like that to be like having like a place to stay. I think Nikki was later on during like catering, but what did Kim think was gonna work out? Like, Kim, I'm sorry, my phone went off and I had to check it real quick. But like I was saying, like, I can see how Nikki was able to pay the bills and all that, but what made Kim think she was gonna live on her own and not have a job? Like, that shit really killed me. And also, this location that they were in, the new apartment, this was also the same apartment complex that Professor Ogilvy was in. So that is why we ended up seeing Nikki over his house more and more and more as the show went on, because they were in the same location as him. He literally was just like, I think like the next stairs. I think he was like downstairs, I think. But yeah, they were in the same apartment. It's just, that's funny about this show is that a whole bunch of these characters in these sitcoms, they do not be having jobs. I do not understand how they can afford to live in the places that they live in. So now that we are done talking about the entire apartment situation and how that didn't make sense, and that's one thing, like one of my biggest critiques with The Parkers is that there were just certain things about this show that were confusing. There were just certain things about this show that were just so out of the ass that they just didn't make sense, because there's an entire arc about Nikki being adopted and this shit was never addressed to begin with. And the worst thing about that arc is that her family set her ass up for failure. That shit happened on a family game show. They went on national TV, some family feud type television show. And that is where they decided to reveal the news that Nikki is adopted. I'm telling you, I would have fought all of them. All of them. Literally with this mirror smacked. The reason y'all didn't see this, but I mixed two like sparkly palettes together so I can like get like glitter on my lids. But no, y'all would have made an enemy out of that day. Y'all most definitely would have made an enemy out of me. But yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is the entire dynamic, and probably a reason why a lot of y'all clicked on this video in the first place. It's the entire dynamic between Nikki and Professor Ogilvy. It's very much toxic. It's very much giving unhealthy. It's also giving stalker to a certain extent. But Nikki, long story short, was always all over Professor Ogilvy, and he made it very clear numerous times that he wasn't interested in her. And one of those ways that it was shown that he wasn't interested is that he was dating another woman named Veronica. And him and Veronica's relationship was so on and off. That shit right there would have done it for me. I'm like, okay, you in another woman, we through. We are through. We never really were to begin with, but we're through, Professor Ogilvy. You're interested in other girls? Fine. You're interested in other women, my guy? Cool. Go ahead, do what you do. But because he was just such a main character in this show, they kept this shit going on and on and on to like keep a consistent storyline, but also like, he kind of didn't have shit to do with this show outside of Nikki. He's kind of not an important character outside of Nikki. Like, yeah, he was Nikki and T and Stevie's professors, but yeah, it wasn't really nothing much with him. It wasn't really much with him. He just kind of was eh. But like I said, that the way Nikki treated the professor, I will go ahead and sit here and say that her behavior was wrong. But I will also sit here and say that I think Nikki was just too good for that man. I don't think that she should have been chasing that man. He was dusty. And I'm not saying dusty in the sense of like him like not really having money and shit like that, because we have seen like the downfall of women just simply dating a man because he's rich, not because she actually likes him. I hate that bullshit that femininity coaches push. But Professor Ogilvy was just such a nasty ass person. Like, he was just so fucking annoying. There's an entire arc where his twin brother shows up and he's like really interested in Nikki, and he literally like fools Nikki into thinking that he's the professor. But anyway, that's off topic. We're not talking about his bitch ass brother. We're talking about his bitch ass self, Professor Ogilvy. Like, he was just an asshole. He literally was just a fucking asshole. He was so fucking unlikable. And there's one episode of The Parkers that really like frustrated me, because there are arcs in this series where Nikki would get over the professor and like go and date other men. Like I said, that's one thing I applaud this show for, is that Nikki was seen to be desirable. But she would always end up going back to chasing Stanley's bitch ass. And I'm like, girl, you are too good for this man. Like, he can't dress. He has no game. He don't got that much money, and I said money's not even that much of a factor for me. But he don't really have that much fucking money. He's annoying as fuck. He's not, like, he's funny, I'll give him that one thing. But he just did not respect her at all, which I get because her behaviors towards him often were wrong. But like I said, the arc that really frustrated me, that made me realize that Nikki really should have been done with him, there was an arc where he lives with her. It was a very short arc. It was temporary. It was only one episode, but it's a major arc in my opinion, where the professor basically was just down on his luck. I'm pretty sure he didn't have nowhere to live. He didn't have no damn job. Pretty sure like he just lost out on so much. And because of that, he decides to live with Nikki. Nikki basically lets him come in, first of all. She was like, oh, you're down on your luck, you can just come stay with me. And she's basically taking care of him. She cooks his food, she washes his clothes, she cleans up after him. Like, she's basically treating him like they're married, like that's her husband. Women, do not clean up after a man unless y'all married. Do not be doing wife duties for a man that you are not married to. He didn't put no ring on your finger, don't do that shit. And everything goes okay for like a little bit, but the more it goes on, we start to see that Professor Ogilvy starts to treat her like ass. And Nikki doesn't do anything about it until Andale basically tells her, hey, I know you really like the professor and you finally are like having a chance to be with him, but he's treating you horribly, and because I'm your friend, I'm letting you know now. And that's one thing I really didn't like about Andale and Nikki's friendship, is that they weren't quick to like not say shit to each other. Like, they were quick to like call each other out on their bullshit. It was more so and Nikki doing it to Andell, but this was one of the few occasions where like Andell really had to tell her, girl, stop letting this man treat you like the scum beneath his toes. Like, girl, we gotta get it together. And the way that arc ends, I think it ends in a pretty strong way, but not that strong because Nikki's still going after him. Nikki basically like tells him, you can't treat me like that. And I think instances like this is where Stanley realizes that he actually did like Nikki. Oh God, we gotta get into that later. Okay, it's getting clumpy, y'all, now. But instances like that are where I think he actually really did like Nikki. Or when he actually started to like Nikki, not more so like the attention that he gave her, but yeah, oh God. Okay, I had to be quiet for a minute to try to get this eye together. Y'all know I be fucking up the eyeliner real bad all the time. That's why I'm like, y'all don't call me no makeup guru. I ain't that good at makeup. Okay, I said I wanted to do Brad Green, but now it's giving Wicked. Now it's giving fucking Wicked. But yeah, the way that arc ends, it basically was just very much, Nikki, we need to stand up. Stand up. Like, he treats you like you the booty piece of the bread, girl. Get up. The next little arc I want to speak about is just talking about the overall bullshit that happened with like Kim and her relationships. Kim's relationships were always just like very messy. You think Nikki's relationships were bad? Kim was worse. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Kim was younger. And you know, dating in your early 20s, don't recommend. It's just nothing really went anywhere with Kim's relationships. But a lot of the guys that she was with, they wasn't shit. And there are specific situations. There was only like one boyfriend of Kim's that I actually really liked. And then he just like wasn't it. Like they just broke up and they called it off. And I don't like the way the show wrote him too. Like it was frustrating as fuck. Well, even though the show, I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but there are some other relationships with Kim that I really want to speak about. Mainly because there's more to say about that relationship with that dude opposed to one of these. There was an entire arc of where Kim basically was playing stepmommy. She was with this one guy who had a daughter. And part of the reason why she ended up like enjoying the relationship so much is because Kim realized that she really liked being a mother. She liked being like a motherly figure. And I think a lot of that has to do with like the way she would interact with her mother, her own mom, because like I said, they shared that apartment together. So she was there seeing like where some of this stuff was going on. Okay, we finished one eye first. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. But Kim was playing stepmommy. She really enjoyed it. But like at the end of the day, that little girl's mom wanted her back. And Kim didn't want to give her up, but she had to. So that was the end of that arc. That arc actually did show that Kim could be smart if she wanted to. She just kept choosing not to be. Because there were like so many instances in this show where Kim was just making really poor decisions. And like I said, it was more frustrating to watch now because opposed to when she was in high school, it was different. But also she wasn't the main fucking character. Here it's like Kim making choices. And I get it. We all make stupid ass choices in our early 20s. I understand that. But, ooh, it was just bad. And there was one entire situation with Kim, Stevie, and T did not want to fucking study for a test. So they cheated. And then Professor Ogilvy is like, hey, y'all did really good on that test. And then Kim was like, oh yeah, we cheated. And I was like, girl, why did you tell him that? And basically, like, cheating in college can get you thrown out the fucking school. So I don't know why. I was like, girl, he won't cheat. Don't be loud about it. But the show would have like Kim doing like really ignorant things like that sometimes. And it was just annoying. Because there was one, like some of her one-liners when she would be like kind of stupid were funny. But other times they were just irritated. Like one time she didn't know like Malcolm X was a real person. And she thought he was just a character that Denzel Washington played. That's funny to a certain extent. But then they'll do stuff like that and like tape it up on 10 notches. It would be irritating. Another little arc I want to bring up that had to do with Kim and more so Nikki, because there are a lot of arcs that deal with them being mother and daughter, would have to be where Nikki was looking after girl that was played by Kyla Pratt. And if you're familiar with Kyla Pratt, she was the main character on 101. She is the voice of Penny Proud from the Proud Family. Yeah, and Kyla Pratt was just so stuck on taking Nikki from Kim, talking about, you're not a good daughter, she deserves someone better like me, yada yada yada. And I'm not trying to be that type of person, but she was making some points. Like, I do think Kim could have been a better daughter to Nikki at times. I understand she was young and I understand she was making choices, but I was like, your mom literally pays your bills. Your mom lets you have your privacy when it comes to your dating life and all of that. Like, why don't you respect her a little bit more? But regardless of that, Nikki still loved her daughter. I was glad to see that she did still love her despite the way she treated her. But that one episode just made me think. I was like, Kim could be a better daughter than Nikki. Like, Kim, the bare minimum you can do is keep your grades up. Like, you can keep a C average. A C average is amazing in college. The next arc I want to talk about when it comes to the Parkers will have to be Kim and Alan. Because I'm saving Nikki's arcs for last. Because Nikki's arcs were like 10 times more ghetto than Kim's. But Kim, this was the only boyfriend of Kim's that I actually really like. And I don't really count T because T and Kim never really went anywhere. That was more so kind of like a situationship. But they just... Kim ended up having a boyfriend named Alan, and he was fat. He was a plus size man. And the show, for this show to be a body positive show, they kept making like fat jokes towards Alan, which like didn't make sense because the two main characters of the show weren't skinny. But anyways, Kim was really interested in a guy named Alan. He didn't really have much interest in her at all, but she kept having to put the points out about how, hey Alan, I like you, I have a crush on you, what the fuck. And I think a lot of that had to do with Alan just not really being comfortable with like women liking him, and a lot of that had to do with like his body. And I understand like where Alan was coming from, because like growing up, like people didn't really like me like that, or they didn't want to like admit that they liked me. It was whatever, like that was just growing up. So I do understand why he was like kind of confused. I'm like, Kim has a crush on me? What the fuck? But him and Kim did get together. I really did like it. It was so cute. I really did like them. But Alan ended up going away for a little bit. And this is, like I'll tell y'all, the Parkers, even though it was a fat positive show, the show still did fat phobic shit. Because they sent Alan away. Like after Alan left, he ends up coming back. And guess what? When Alan comes back, he is now fit. He is now skinny. He's now slim. He works out regularly. He eats healthy, and he wants to encourage Kim to like eat healthier and get like regular exercise and all of that. And I do understand the importance of those two things, but he became like so fat phobic against his own self, and he started to like push a lot of his fat phobic behavior onto Kim. And I remember Nikki had said something about it, talking about, you used to be big, don't be acting like that. But guess what? The worst thing about it is that Alan ended up being played by a different actor when they brought him back. That was not the same guy that played the first Alan. They had fat Alan and then they had a skinny Alan, like two completely different actors playing the same person. And I was just like, you see, I love the Parkers, but it does shit to where I cannot defend it. And I have to call the show out for it being wrong. But Alan and Kim were cute, but then that just didn't last after that, like after he became skinny. And the main reason why, like, ooh, y'all, that looks so bad. But that, like, honestly, Kim, like, Alan being skinny is, like, really what led to him and Kim, like, breaking up. Because Kim just didn't really like the way he was treating her after that. He just became, like, really mean and nasty about, like, not just her body, but just, like, a lot of things in general. But, yeah, I love that relationship, but it didn't work out. Now that we are done talking about Kim's fucked up relationships, we're gonna have to talk about her mama's fucked up relationships, because they were significantly like worse. No, I think Kim's relationships were worse because they didn't last long. Because Nikki was dealing like, oh gosh, Nikki. I always fuck up eyeliner on this side. Like it be looking blocky. Like it look fucking blocky. See, I messed it up. Like it always happens when I mess it up, and then I'm like, I mean, we not going nowhere with this makeup. It don't matter. Y'all know how my videos go. We gonna get to a point in the makeup where it just look full. Okay, now we are getting into the section of the video where we talk about Miss Parker's relationships. And when I'm talking about Miss Parker, I'm talking about the mama. Now, these are like the more major arcs of the series that went on like over like a course of like some episodes, because while the Parkers is very much episodic, it did like to do that thing like shows in the 2000s often did, where they be like previously on the Parkers every once in a while. But there are some arcs in the show that are like, oh god, child, anyways. But they're like the most memorable parts. The main one, the first one I'm going to talk about is the first time Nikki actually got over on Professor Oakley. So how this arc went is that Nikki ended up meeting a guy, and the guy, first of all, she was very much like not interested in him because she had a crush on Stanley and was like, hey, no, I'm not interested in you. I'm actually like interested in another man. Whatever, you're cool, yada yada yada. But here's the thing. Once Nikki just like stopped showing interest in the professor because she was interested in another guy, guess what the fuck happened? Guess what? Guess. Like I mentioned earlier, you know that thing TV shows do when the characters just don't have a crush on them no more and they get mad because they miss the attention that they gave them? Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Y'all, this is a fucking mess. Go ahead and drag me. Go ahead and drag me for this eye because it looks terrible. Go ahead and drag me. Drag me to hell. And back. But yeah, she gets over him. Like the dude like was like treating her well. He take her out on a date, whatever. And then Stanley just can't handle the fact that another man finds Nikki to be as desirable. Like it literally keeps him up at night. He literally can't stand it. He literally loses sleep over the fact that this one woman that made him feel important doesn't like him anymore. And shit like that used to happen to me when I was younger, because like when I would have crushes, it's obvious that they didn't like me and they made it clear that they didn't like me, but they would keep me around. But when I get to the point where I finally get over their ass, they would just be like, oh, you not interested no more? I thought we had something. No, you just like the attention that I gave you. And that's literally how it was with Nikki and the professor. Anytime she would show attention to somebody else, he would get mad. And it didn't really happen that often. But like here, he was just more so irritated with the fact that she wasn't giving him attention no more, because he was acting all happy and stuff like that, like, ooh, Miss Parker finally over me, she don't want me no more, happy, jumping for joy. But then next thing you know, once she really like left him alone, he was mad about it. Like, what kind of ghetto shit is that? Okay, I think we're done with the eye. Not yet. We gotta do the inner corner and then we're good on this. We gotta do the inner corner, then we gotta do the glitter, but the glitter is not gonna be last. Y'all know the SpongeBob palette that we like to get the glitter from. The next arc, the second to last arc I want to talk about in this damn show, where it was just like, ooh, is the pregnancy arc. Yes, there is a baby arc. There's a pregnancy arc. And I usually hate baby arcs of television shows. Like, I've been watching the X-Files a lot lately, for those of you guys who've been following me. I literally, anytime that baby arc come on, I skip it. I fucking hate it. But what happened with this baby arc is that the professor ended up having a really bad date, and he just was like kind of like things was not going good for him, okay? Stanley was not going good for him. And one thing I have learned about this show is that he's a very insecure man. He's a very insecure man, and at times when he's being insecure, he uses Nikki to feel good about himself. Like I said, we can acknowledge that Nikki should have been leaving that man alone, but we also got to talk about, oh no, he would be like, hey, yeah, I like the attention that this woman gives me. Like, oh god, it was so annoying. So basically he's down on his arc, and he basically invites Nikki over to like his place because she basically was there and she saw that he was like kind of like sad, down on his luck, and was just trying to figure out what was going on with him. I'll be right back because I realized I left my highlight. So the professor invites Nikki into his home, and they basically have sex. Like, they literally have sex. These are two consenting adults having sex. So after they have sex, it's very much, he's like, hey, I don't know what you think this is. That was a one-time thing, yada, yada, yada. And then Nikki's just like, yeah, sure, Stanley. Okay. So once that happens, later on in the show, Nikki starts to have like weird food cravings. Like, y'all know how they be talking about like pregnant women cravings and all this shit. Nikki starts to have like these really weird cravings. And then everyone else is just like, are you okay, girl? Like, what's going on? Like, you can't be pregnant because you're not with nobody. And you know, when it comes to wacky 2000 sitcom situation, Kim was like, hey, I actually have a pregnancy test that you can take, like if you want it. And then they're like, Kim, why the fuck are you taking pregnancy tests? Are you sleeping around? Like, what the fuck? And she was like, oh no, they were on sale at this place and I just ended up buying a whole bunch of them just because I can. So Nikki takes a pregnancy test and it comes out positive. And she's happy because she's like, oh my gosh, I'm having a baby with Stanley. Like, she was actually really, really happy about that. And Stanley was not having it. He was like, what the fuck do you mean you're pregnant? Well, Stanley, y'all didn't use a condom. What did you think was gonna happen? But yeah, they slept together without protection. That's why. So after that happens, he's like, oh, you need to take another one. She does take another test because Kim brought up one. She was like, no, they're still saying it's positive. They're still basically saying she was pregnant, and he is just like in disbelief. Like, he is just like sick to his damn stomach, and I'm just like, y'all didn't use protection. Y'all didn't use protection. You didn't even bother asking if she was on birth control or anything. Like, y'all didn't wrap it up. What did you think? What did you think, Stanley? Like, you're a college professor. Think. Use your noggin. But yeah, he is just like so distraught at the fact that like he could possibly be having a child with Miss Parker. And then, you know, basically she talks some sense into him like, hey, you got me pregnant. I don't want to abort, so you're going to have to get your shit together. And he does kind of decide to get his shit together. Nikki ends up planning this entire storyline where she has these people pretend to be like a family. These actors pretend to be a family and talk some sense into him, yada, yada, yada. And this arc was just like, ugh. It was so annoying. Like, it was funny to watch because the jokes in it were like, yeah. He was just so, I was like, dude, you should have wrapped it up. You should have wrapped it up, dude. Wrap it up before you made that bad choice. Like, okay, that's done. I think I put enough highlight on. No, we didn't put enough over the eyebrow. But like, that's pretty much it I wanted to say for that pregnancy arc, because now we need to talk about the way the show ends. I absolutely hate the way the Parkers ends. I want to go ahead and finish my makeup first so I can like full on rant about it. But basically the way the show ends is that it is basically graduation. And I think a lot of this horrible ending had to do with the fact that the Parkers got news that they would not get renewed for another season. Like, the Parkers was done. This was just pretty much it. This was the end of it. So I think that had a lot to do with why this shit was over. And why did they want to give this show like such a fairy tale ass ending? I was just confused by that. Like, that just wasn't making sense. The math was not mathing. But Nikki does end up meeting another man. And the man is like madly in love with her. And he's like, Nikki, I want to marry you. But he was like, I want to marry you. I want to put a ring on your finger. I want you to be my wife. And she is like, yes. Like, absolutely, yeah. She was like, Stanley's never gonna love me. He's never gonna treat me right. He's never gonna come around. And like I said, like, he's just not into you, girl. Like, girl, just get over him anyway. He has shown you numerous times that he doesn't like you. And then he's also shown you numerous times before that y'all would not like be a good fit, because when y'all actually kind of worked together, when he did live with you, he disrespected the fuck out of you. Like, it has just shown numerous occasions that it just wasn't meant to be. But as the first time it went down with Professor Ogilvy just being distraught about Nikki being interested in another man, the same thing happens over and over and over again, where he's just like, oh, y'all, I think I actually do love Nikki. I actually do want to be with her. And everybody else is just like, you had your chance, Stanley. Like, you had your fucking chance. You had your chance to be with her, but you made it clear you didn't want her, and she has finally moved on. You've been wanting her to move on for so long, let her go. But he's just like, no, I love Miss Parker. I want to be with her. I actually do want to make her my wife. And y'all want to know exactly why I think Stanley finally did want to be with Nikki? Because Veronica was finally done with his ass, and other women didn't like him. Like, we have seen Professor Ogilvy go on dates with other women and then they are just extremely turned off by him in the end. Like, I think he finally felt like he was running out of options. But have y'all ever seen like Love and Basketball? That movie get on my damn nerves. It very much was giving Love and Basketball, where he was like, she the only thing I got love. Like, he realized Nikki was kind of the only woman that really gave him the time of day. But also, like I said, Nikki put up with all his bullshit. She put up with him, like, treating her horribly and all that. Like, she put up with his shit all the time. So that's why he was just so distraught at the fact that this one woman that gave him attention all the time was marrying another guy. So guess what he fucking does? Guess what he fucking does, y'all? Guess what Stanley Ogilvy bitch ass does? He crashes the wedding. Yes, a different world type bullshit. He crashes the fucking wedding. Yes, he crashes the wedding. And basically, it's so fucked up too, because he basically is like, Nikki, I love you. I want to be with you. Let's get married right now. And he said, let's get married right now, because he knew he wasn't going to give her another chance for another man to show interest in her. I'm telling you. When I talk about fictional characters I would like to fight, Professor Ogilvy is one of them. But he's like, no, let's actually get married right now. And it was at a fucking wedding. And you know how Nikki is just down bad for this man? She is so down bad for this nigga. She says yes. She says yes. And guess what? She marries him right there in front of her fiance. That man she was going to marry instead. That's what Nikki does. That's what Nikki does. The Marvelous Misadventures of Nikki Captain. That's what we gotta call this show at this point. She literally was like, Stanley, I love you. Come on, let's get married. Like, oh God. And it's frustrating because it's kind of like Stanley took advantage of that. He knew she was gonna do some shit like that. He's like, now anytime she was with another dude, she came back to me. And I'm like, you really think you're that special? You really think you're that special, Stanley? Okay. Sure, Jan. So the show ends and, you know, basically Nikki's friends and family are happy for her because they're like, oh my gosh, Nikki finally got what she wanted. Yay, sunshines and rainbows and bullshit and whatever the fuck. Y'all look good. Let me get a picture of this before I put my glasses on. But that's just how the Parkers ends. We go on this long journey of a mother and daughter duo going to college for the first time, experiencing life, meeting so many interesting people along the way. And it just ends on such a rush and poor ass note. And I just think the show deserved a much better outcome. Like, I do have an issue with Nikki and Professor ending up together, but if that's the way the show wanted to go, if that's the direction they wanted to go with them always eventually ending up together, I think the writing for it could have been done much better, because this ending was just rushed. Like, and it just was like a dick move on Professor Ogilvy's end anyway, because he's just like, she loved me anyway, she'll marry me right here, right in that instance. And it just made Nikki look desperate. Like, it just made Nikki look so desperate, and we know Nikki wasn't desperate. Like I said, that's one thing I actually liked about the Parkers, is that it showed like a fat black woman, a fat black dark-skinned woman specifically. She had a good sense of style. She was very beautiful, but she was seen to be desirable by a lot of men in this series. Like, there were certain episodes where Nick Cannon bitch ass was in here trying to make her feel bad about her weight, and she didn't back down and make him feel bad about her. Like, there are so many instances where this show showed that Nikki was a bad bitch and was just too good to just deal with Ogilvy's bullshit. I think she should not have been chasing that man. I'm gonna sit here and say that. I don't think she should have been chasing him. I don't think she should have been harassing him, and yada yada yada. But I also gotta point the finger at Stanley too, just as well, because he did some manipulative shit on her in the end. It's like watching Girlfriends, okay? Like, watching the Parkers is like watching like a community college version of Girlfriends, and I just fucking loved it. I fucking adored it. But if you have watched this video all the way to the end, comment, what do I want y'all to comment? Comment brown lip liner with lip gloss. Comment that. Brown lip liner with lip gloss, because y'all know that's what I always do at the end of these makeup videos. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I can sit here and go off and on and on and on about like what irritates me so much about Nikki and the Professor's relationship, because it was bad on both ends. But I feel like a lot of people do not call out how wrong Ogilvy was too with all of this bullshit. Like, it was a hot fucking mess. He basically knew no other woman was gonna be around that long as she did, and he was like, you know what, you gonna stay. It was giving some love and basketball bullshit there. But I gapped enough for this video. I told y'all I was gonna give y'all that hour-long video of the Parkers. If I love something and I appreciate it, I can talk about it for a hot ass minute. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you're interested in supporting me, Black Friday Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, all of that would be linked down below. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this video right here. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, night, whatever time of the day you chose to watch this video. I'm just thankful that you're watching with the ads on. Alright, thank you. Goodbye.
Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous. Because the Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye and do it all before bedtime. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and coming through, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. The Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind.